in September we always like to go apple picking, so we went last Sunday. We got a bunch of very nice apples, and among them went with my sister, and somebody other than me picked this tiny apple. I would never pick an apple like this for eating. However, it is so delightful that even though I wasn't planning on painting an apple or creating an apple-inspired palette, just seeing it gave me the idea. Now remember that what I see is not what you see, because the camera does not coincide with my eyes. So I noticed that earlier that it's quite different, the position, but what are we gonna do? I can't paint by looking at the camera. So I'm going to show you the 4 handmade watercolors that I'm going to use. One is a yellow ochre, which is an all-natural earth from southern France. The grass is also a French pigment. It's a mineral pigment, so on a natural mineral base there's some artificial pigment, so I would say it's about 95% natural. And then these two, this is also an artificial pigment on a natural base, the cardinal. It's also a French color. And the rose, I called it that. It's a quinacridone rose. It's a pigment I actually purchased in France, but it's a German pigment. And I'm gonna start with those two. This is going to require more than one layer, obviously. I'm working with Amalfi paper. It's a tiny piece of Amalfi paper. I bought that in Amalfi. You can buy it online if you're willing. I really hate to pay for shipping on anything. So, but it is available online, and the shipping is kind of expensive, but if you have no other way of getting this paper, I would say that it's worth it. So for the first layer of the apple, I'm just using the earth and the, meaning the ochre, and the quin rose. And on the leaf, I used also the ochre and the green pigment, which I named grass because the first time I mixed it, it was part of a Vermont landscape palette, and that seemed like an appropriate name then. And now I'm gonna let this first layer dry. So this could be seen as a variation on a basic palette, primary palette. You have a yellow and a red, cool red, warm red. There is no blue, but we don't really need a blue here. I mean, it'd be nice to have it, but with just 4 colors, I think a green is just fine. Again, this is a simple sketch. It would have been fun to do it right at the apple orchard, but I was not with other sketchers, and it's always tricky, isn't it? I'm gonna put a little bit of red in the leaf. It'll gray out this otherwise too bright color. And the stem is also still green because the apple was just picked a couple of days ago. And a little bit of red here to make it browner. Then I'm gonna work on the shadow side of the apple. Eventually we're going to do a shadow. So basically I'm going back and forth with the colors, trying to be inspired by the actual apple. What am I doing here? I am doing the shadow, and I am counting on the power of complementaries to gray each other out. I have moved the apple since I first drew that shadow, so it's in a different place from my original drawing. So this is pretty much a primary red, a magenta. This is not exactly the perfect green because it has more yellow in it, but it'll work. Also, none of it is very dark, as you can see. Do you see the lovely granulation that's happening here? And the other thing is, this is not watercolor paper, it's Amalfi paper, and it's lovely, but I need to be more gentle with it because I'm afraid it's beginning to pill. So, to minimize that risk, I'm gonna let this dry again. As simple as this is, and rather unable to capture some important things such as the shine, I like it. I like how it's coming out. And I like to attribute much of the success to the beauty of this paper. There's something special, I think, that happens when we use materials and tools that are wonderful, that we almost feel like we don't deserve. In fact, that we do feel that we don't deserve. I like that. I mean, obviously, in part, it's silly. Who doesn't deserve an object? I mean, I don't mean that literally or with any kind of self-loathing or false self-modesty or deprecation. It's more the reality of really quality things, really beautiful, carefully made tools or materials. And there's something about using Amalfi paper for me. For you, it may be something else. For me, it's Amalfi paper. It's made in an area that I love, that is very close to my heart, and it's made according to traditional methods that haven't changed much in centuries. And all that, to me, makes a difference. It makes a difference in the way I approach my work as a watercolorist. Another thing that to me makes a difference is using handmade watercolors. I mean, these are mine, and it's not to toot my own horn or anything like that. It started with my using other people's handmade watercolors. I just noticed that, and again, this may well be psychological, but so what? Psychology is important. I just noticed that I was slowing down. I was appreciating more the feeling of the practice I was doing. So I don't always do this. I don't always use the best material I can use. I don't always use, though recently I've only been using handmade watercolors, but you know, my brush could use some upgrade. This is hardly an object of reverence, but I really like it. I do have some Kolinsky sable brush that probably would be better suited for this kind of paper, but it's not going to be good paper or good paint that's going to make anyone a great painter. And I'm not even talking about the practical aspects of, yes, better tools, all other things being equal. And all other things never are equal, I often say, but still, good tools, good materials make a difference. But here I'm talking more about a certain relationship with your tools, and I just encourage you to find what works for you, what gives you joy in using, and go with it. And this little apple, just looking at it gives me joy, so I was very happy to be able to capture it a little bit in a tiny painting. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about anything in this video, please leave a message, or leave a comment rather. Thanks. Bye.